All right, that code will be up in the upper left-hand corner in case you get signed out, or if you are, if you haven't gotten in yet. We're going to go ahead and get started since we lost some time due to the fire alarm. Today, we're talking about Act 4 of Romeo and Juliet. Our objectives today are to review the major plot points from Act 4, and then also to discuss dramatic irony. So to begin with, I want you just to write a 3 to 5 summary of what has happened in the play so far. So 3 to 5 sentences, what has happened in the play so far. So let's take a second just to kind of do a little recapping. And these might be the things that you think are the most important things that have happened so far in the play, or you can be way more detailed than that if you wish. Do it? You ran out of room? Okay, just cut some of this stuff. I ran out of room too. I had to cut a couple sentences. It was hard. So they kissed at the dance. Then Romeo killed Juliet's cousin. Then he got banned from that side of town. Romeo and Juliet have met and seen each other. They realize how much in love they are. They later discuss their future plans together and want to get married. Romeo has a crush on a girl and ends up finding his way into a party. When he's there, he found this really beautiful girl that he ended up kissing and falling in love with. And then they end up talking later and ended up deciding to get married. So obviously, we can all agree that a big plot point is the fact that they have fallen in love and they've gotten married, right? They met at a ball. They instantly fell for each other. They shared a kiss. Later, he asked her to marry him. She says yes. Okay. They met, they fall in love. He kills Juliet's cousin. She still loved him. Okay. Paris has been promised to Juliet. Juliet's already married, but they don't know anything about that. Romeo met Juliet. They fell in love at first sight. Romeo wanted Juliet and vice versa. Then they started secretly talking to one another and expressed their love without anyone knowing. And then Romeo ends up getting banished because he killed someone. And then Romeo goes to a dance he shouldn't have. He kissed her. They secretly get married. And then Tybalt killed Mercutio. Then Romeo kills her cousin and got banished. Okay, good. All right. So we all kind of have this essence of our Romeo and Juliet meet, fall in love, get married. And then Romeo kills Juliet's cousin. He's banished. And without anybody knowing that they're married, Juliet's dad has promised Juliet to Paris, and they're supposed to get married on Thursday. All right, good recap. Let's go ahead and watch Act 4, Scene 1. This picks up right after the end of the last scene where Juliet is distraught because her daddy has promised her hand to Paris, and she's very upset about it.
Act 4, Scene 1 of Romeo and Juliet begins when Paris visits the friar to tell him that his father, Capulet, wants Paris to marry Juliet on Thursday. Juliet arrives seeking the friar's counsel and exchanges strained words with Paris, indicating her resistance to the wedding. Paris leaves and the friar explains that nothing can be done to prevent the marriage. Juliet reveals a dagger, indicating she would rather kill herself than marry Paris. The friar develops a plan in which she will take a potion that mimics death and be entombed. Juliet readily accepts the idea. The friar explains that Juliet's light will appear to go out when she drinks the potion that simulates death. He tells her that he will send word to Romeo, who will be in the crypt when she awakens. Romeo will then take her to Mantua, where they can live. He warns Juliet not to give way to womanish fear, and she responds saying she has no fear. Paris greets Juliet by naming her his lady and his wife. She points out that neither is the case. His possessive words make her feel she is not her own person. For Juliet, her identity is marked as Romeo's wife, and if she cannot be Romeo's wife, then she cannot be at all. Her willingness to kill herself outright, or even to fake her death, as the friar proposes, display an inner conviction and authority few of the other characters in the play possess. Her new married identity strengthens her, even as it speeds her toward the grave.
So here we have Juliet being pretty forceful, right? She's like, I would rather die than not be with Romeo. And this is a pretty bold statement for someone who's 13 years old, right? So she's willing to fake her death so that everybody thinks that she's dead. And then the friar will tell Romeo what's going on, and he'll greet her when she wakes up in her tomb, and then they'll be able to run off together and go live in another town. Doesn't this sound like a great plan? Sounds like nothing's going to go wrong, right? So these are some scenes of kind of a interview. And this is an interview with the friar, okay? So kind of talking about the plan that he has set forth.
Come back, Larry.
Thanks, Ralph. Can we make this quick? There's a lot going on.
Sure. In fact, that's what I want to talk to you about. It's early Tuesday morning, and Paris shows up to inform you that he plans to marry Juliet on Thursday.
Yes, that's some difficult news, I admit.
Well, and you immediately advised against it after he confesses that his bride-to-be isn't exactly enthusiastic about the plan.
Yes, but you see, he thinks that Juliet is upset over Tybalt's death, which, of course, she partially is, which makes it more complicated. But in any event, Capulet and Paris marriage to happen as quickly as possible, which makes it difficult for someone like me to stand in the way.
Unless you knew some reason why they shouldn't be married.
Yes, and I know a very good reason why they shouldn't be married. I kind of wish I didn't know it.
Yes, that Juliet's already married. You're kind of in a tough spot here. I mean, you don't just know about it, you made it happen. You've already performed an illicit wedding, and if you don't do anything to stop it, marrying Juliet to Paris would be bigamy. You've got a lot on the line here, Larry.
Thank you for pointing that out so clearly, Ralph. But I think I have a plan.
Well, yes, and then Juliet shows up, crossing paths with Paris.
Yeah, that was awkward to say the least. But she handled herself remarkably well.
Yes, which is all the more impressive given how upset she is. So after Paris leaves, she pulls out a knife, saying that she'll kill herself if there's no other way out. But you tell her that you spy a kind of hope.
Yeah, well, that's right, Ralph. I always like to think that there's hope. Although it's a risky plan, it could be about as dangerous as the thing we're trying to avoid.
Yes, and you say to Juliet, if rather than to marry County Paris, thou hast the strength of will to slay thyself, then is it likely thou wilt undertake a thing like death to chide away this shame that copes with death himself to escape from it. So what do you mean there, a thing like death?
So, Ralph, we've talked about natural remedies, the value of plants.
Yes, you and your herbs.
Yeah, well, they can come in handy. It so happens that I have a potion.
A potion.
And this potion makes a person seem like they're dead. No, there's no detectable pulse, no breath. The blood drains from the face and lips. And in this death-like state, they remain for 42 hours, give or take, depending on the herbs.
And you want Juliet to take this potion?
Yes, I want her to go home to her parents and say that she's going to marry Paris. No problem. Sorry I freaked out. Marrying Paris is a great idea. But then on Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. Today is Tuesday.
Yeah, Wednesday, the night before the wedding, she'll take the potion, fall into this death-like sleep, and the next morning, her parents will think she's dead, weeping and wailing, and they bear her body to Capulet's tomb. Well, that might be a little frightening for her, but Romeo and I will be there when she wakes up, and off they go to Mantua, and the whole marrying Paris thing is avoided. Great, right?
Sure. But then what?
Well, it won't be the end of their troubles, I know. We have to find a way to get them back to Verona. We have to solve the whole Romeo exile thing, but at least it avoids the immediate disaster, and it will work as long as Juliet doesn't lose her nerve along the way.
Well, she might be stronger than you think. So she accepts the plan, and she leaves with the potion in hand. But Larry, if you don't mind, I've just noticed one other thing.
Yeah, what's that, Ralph?
Well, when we first talked, you were telling us about how nature is both a womb and a tomb, that things die, but that other things are born out of them. So if things go according to plan, well, then Juliet will literally be in a tomb, by all normal measures, dead. And yet you hope that new life will be born out of that.
Indeed, Ralph, indeed. That's exactly what I'm hoping. Well, you're good at this. You know, I'm teaching a class, well, at the workshop, really, right after services on Sunday, just a few folks. Would you care to join us? This Sunday, we're going to focus on...
I'm sorry, Larry. We better check in with Sarah.
Juliet.
Okay, so what do you think about Friar Lawrence's plan?
I think it's gonna end up with Romeo dead.
You think it's going to end up with Romeo dead? Okay.
Because he's gonna think Juliet's dead.
Okay. And that will probably make him overreact. We already know that he likes to overreact sometimes. So that's, he is a dramatic little boy. This is true. Okay, good. Overall though, I mean, does it seem like a solid plan? Would you take a potion that would make you look like you were dead if it meant you would maybe be able to spend the rest of your life with the love of your life? seems a little drastic, right? I mean, maybe they could just come clean about the fact that they're married and go from there. But that seems like a really bad idea as well. Why can't they just do that? Why can't Juliet just go home and say, hey guys, listen, here's the truth. I'm already married.
She probably won't be accepted by her family.
We already saw how her dad was like, I'm going to disown you and throw you out on the streets if you don't marry Paris. So he probably isn't going to be like, great news, daughter. That is fantastic. So that's scary. But is that scarier than pretending like you're dead? Taking a potion that for all intents and purposes make you seem like you're dead?
Yeah. I mean, all of them,
I think it's definitely extreme. You would rather die than be disowned? Okay. Who else would rather die than be disowned? Anyone else? Hard to tell, right? Like, we love our family, but we're going to watch Juliet's in a second. Let's skip that one scene. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about irony before we move into the rest of the acts. Irony is the opposite of what you expect. So it's a contradiction between what happens and what you expected to happen. It's often used to add suspense and interest and to keep the reader thinking about the moral of the story. Okay. So let's watch a little bit of a little video that kind of describes irony.
All right, everyone, my goal is to clear up any confusion surrounding irony this week. So we're going to start with a definition, explain the differences between the three types, situational, verbal, and dramatic, and then we're going to practice a little bit and do a little self-quiz on the second half of the video. Okay, so when we're talking about irony, it can be one of three different things, and that I think is what causes confusion for folks because they're slightly different. Situational irony is when something happens that is the opposite of what was expected. So for example, while cooking dinner at the firehouse, a group of firefighters accidentally sets fire to their own kitchen. That is situational irony. We also have verbal irony, which is when somebody says something, but they actually mean the exact opposite of what they said. So an example is you've saved your babysitting money for say 3 months when your friends decide to go out to the county fair. Once there, you realize that your money isn't going to go very far. So for example, the concession stand, a snow cone costs $14. What? You say to your friends, what a bargain, right? Maybe I ought to buy 2. That's verbal irony. And the difference between that and sarcasm, which they feel very similar, right? You're like, oh, my friend's being sarcastic. Actually, they're being ironic. If they're being sarcastic, it tends to have that same quality, but it's more acidic and it's generally pointed at somebody to hurt them. So sarcasm has an edge to it that intends to harm a specific person, whereas in my example I've given you here, we would just say that they're being ironic, verbally ironic. And the last one is dramatic irony, which is very different. It's when we as the audience know something about what's happening in a story that a character doesn't know. So anything dealing with, stories, plays, films, those things would be probably most likely examples of dramatic irony. And the example I give you, let's say you're watching a movie and you see a man with a knife hiding in an upstairs closet as the protagonist comes home from work. And we're scared for the protagonist because we know the attacker is upstairs. That's an example of dramatic irony. Now, we can turn that into situational irony if while you're watching that movie, there is also in real life a person with a knife in an upstairs closet in your house. So now that's situational irony as you're watching a movie based on dramatic irony. Oh my gosh, how terrifying. Okay, let's jump in. Let's practice. I want you to determine, and you can hit pause because I talk really fast. I'm just going to I'm not going to do a countdown clock or anything like that. I'm just going to lay it on you, which it is. So if I'm talking too fast and you see the words and you just want to read the sentence for yourself and decide before you hear me say it, hit pause and then hit play when you're ready to keep on. But I'm just going to roll through these 10. All right, so number 1, Microsoft's new chief executive officer completes all of her work on an Apple computer. Woo!
What kind of irony is that? Is it situational? Is it verbal? Or is it dramatic? What's ironic about the situation? Okay, good.
Is it situational, verbal, or dramatic irony? Yes, it's situational irony, right? The opposite of what you would expect. Number two, as the teacher handed back our graded exams, the kid next to me muttered, "Great."
What's this
You
one?
think he did great? I don't think so.
Situational, verbal, or dramatic?
Verbal or dramatic. Yes, he's being verbally ironic, right? It's not sarcasm because it's not about the teacher. It's not about you. It's just like, oh, not great. Number three, last night our local police station was robbed. This sounds a lot like a fire station kitchen being set on fire because yes, it is an example of situational irony. Very nice. Number four, in your favorite show, the main character has fallen for his coworker, but she isn't aware of his feelings. He's also not aware that she's married, even though we in the audience know this. Oh my.
All right, which one's this? Situational, verbal, or dramatic? Dramatic, because it takes place within a drama, right? Okay, good. All of those make sense? Okay. All right, let's take a look at Act 4, Scene 2.
Act 4, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet begins back at the Capulets' home. Lord Capulet directs his servants as they prepare for the wedding. Juliet enters and quickly kneels to beg her father's pardon. Seizing on her obedience, he moves the wedding up a day. With youthful exuberance, he plans to tell Paris the news and stay up all night to prepare himself for the feast. Juliet restores the appearance of order with her expression of repentance. She gives her father what he wants to hear, obedience. However, it is Juliet's disobedience toward her father as she prepares to execute the friar's plan that has given her the strength to pretend to obey him. Here again, Shakespeare emphasizes youth and age. Juliet's immature actions go against the instructions of her older father. The friar is again helping the young person to make a mistake.
So now we have the wedding, it's been moved up a day. What complications could this possibly cause? When was Juliet supposed to drink her potion? Wednesday night. So if she's already going to be married on Wednesday night, remarried again, married, does that marriage count? I don't know. There's a lot of logistics to think about there. So she's got like, now instead of having, a little over 24 hours to contemplate her plan, Andrew, please put your phone away. She has now hours to contemplate what she is going to do. Okay. So this adds a little bit of intensity. Also, we have a little bit of irony there where we've got Juliet pretending to bow down to her father, and then her father like, woo, let me go ahead and move that date up. So Juliet's young and she's in love. What's her plan of action to get her way? Well done. All right, let's take a look at Act 4, Scene 3.
Act 4, Scene 3 of Romeo and Juliet continues the action from the previous scene. Juliet's parents leave her, allowing her to rest in preparation for the wedding day. Juliet asks the nurse to leave too, so she can pray. Juliet then describes her terrible fears while she holds the vial the friar gave her. She wonders if the friar gave her actual poison to cover up his role in her and Romeo's secret wedding, but then dismisses the idea. She imagines waking and suffocating in the foul air of the tomb, or being overcome with madness and committing a violent suicide. When she envisions Tybalt's ghost seeking out Romeo, she is moved to swallow the contents of the vial. In this way, she will either join Tybalt in death or be reunited with Romeo as planned. Juliet seeks solitude as she is on the brink of leaving her family behind. Her fears show her doubts about the friar, but also her insecurity about her ability to handle her new life that may greet her when she wakes up. Ultimately, she chooses the unknown, Romeo and her new life, over the known, marriage to Paris and life with the Capulets.
So she's drank the potion. There's no going back from that, right? She has decided that she would rather risk her life, not knowing if the friar has really given her a good potion or not, and the unknown aspect of what life will be like, because she knows that that means that she essentially is going to be banished too until they get this all settled out. So she's going for it. Now, is that brave, or what do you guys think?
I think she would have been braver if she had just told her dad what happened.
Right. If she had just said, hey, you know, I agree with you. I think that probably, but that would have been a very adult thing to do. And she kind of struggles with making some adult decisions, right? Okay, good. Let's take a look at that moment where she makes this decision.
Farewell. God knows when we shall meet again. I have a faint, cold fear thrills through my veins that almost freezes up the heat of life. I'll call them back again to comfort me. Nurse! What should she do here? My dismal scene I needs must act alone. Come, Vial. What if this mixture do not work at all? Shall I be married then tomorrow morning? No. No. This shall forbid it. Lie thou there. What if it be a poison, which the friar subtly hath ministered to have me dead, lest in his marriage he should be dishonored because he married me before to Romeo? I fear it is. And yet, methinks it should not, for he hath still been tried a holy man. How if, when I'm laid into the tomb, I wake before the time that Romeo come to redeem me? There's a fearful point. Shall I not then be stifled in the vault, to whose foul mouth no healthsome air breathes in, and there die strangled ere my Romeo comes? Or, if I live, is it not very like the horrible conceit of death and night, together with the terror of the place, as in a vault, an ancient receptacle, where for this many hundred years the bones of all my buried ancestors are packed, where bloody Tybalt, yet but green in earth, lies festering in his shroud, where, as they say, at some hours of the night, spirits resort. Alack, alack, is it not like that I, so early waking, what with loathsome smells and shrieks like mandrakes torn out of the earth, that living mortals hearing them run mad? Oh, if I wake, shall I not be distraught, environed with all of these hideous fears, and madly play with my forefathers' joints, and pluck the mangled Tybalt from his shroud, and in this rage, with some great kinsman's bone, as with a club, dash out my desperate brains? Oh, look. Methinks I see my cousin's ghost, seeking out Romeo that did spit his body upon a rapier's point. Stay, Tybalt, stay. Romeo, I come. This do I drink to thee.
All right, so we see her go through all this anguish, right? Like she wonders about first, is it a poison or is this a real potion that's going to fake my death? And then she wonders if it's going to work or if she's going to wake up inside of the nasty tomb. So I want you to kind of imagine that tomb. There's somebody who just got buried in there the day before, right? Her cousin. And rotting bodies don't smell great, right? So she's imagining kind of how nasty it's going to smell in there at that rotting body and being stuck underneath the heaviness of the tomb. And then she fears that she might go crazy because of all of this. And in her craziness, take one of her ancestors' bones and hit herself in the head until she's dead. So she's like going through some dark stuff, right? Again, just to avoid talking to her parents about what really happened. Right? So can we sympathize with Juliet? Can we feel some kinds of sympathy for her and what she's going through right now? She feels like this is the only answer. So can we understand in some ways, or do we feel critical of her decision? What do you guys think? Okay. Can you understand? I mean, I guess, how many of you have ever had to go tell your parents something really, really bad that you did that you know you're going to get in a whole lot of trouble? Coming clean's hard, right? It's almost better if they just find out and then you get punished than having to confess, right? Even though maybe confessing would mean that you'd get in less trouble. But she has she's not even thinking that. Like she never goes, oh, she just is, it's just not an option for her. So I can understand her fear. Also, I can see her youth. I think we can really see how young Juliet is in these moments, that this is the only option that she thinks that she has. All right, I'm going to skip this. This is an interview, and I think that that it can be very helpful because it kind of helps to explain a little bit more of Juliet's motivation. What we're going to be doing after we get done watching this act is you guys are going to be writing an in-class essay that you're going to start working on today and finish up on Monday. So if you need evidence for your essay, and we'll talk about that essay in just a second, I think that this can be a very helpful video, so you can find it on the Nearpod if you want to be able to watch it. But since we lost about 5 minutes because of the fire drill, I'm not going to spend the 5 minutes watching it. So if you could give Juliet some advice right now, what advice would you give her? If you could help her out before she drinks that vial, what advice would you give her if you could give her some? So we've got just run away. Another person says the opposite, just do it and see what happens. Just tell your family the truth because you don't want to accidentally hurt others for something that never happened. Telling the truth is better than maybe dying. Absolutely. Marry Paris, accuse Paris of assault, and then divorce him. That's a good plan. That works. Just go tell your family the truth. And if your father kicks you out, you just go live with Romeo, right? Like that's totally logical. I think that I could tell her she should just come clean to her parents instead of risking her life for someone that killed her cousin. Good advice. And then another person says, I think she should take the potion and get away from her family so she can be happy with Romeo. So we kind of have advice all over the place, everything from marry Paris and accuse him of assault, to just drink the potion, to tell your parents the truth. All of those are options that Juliet doesn't have right now, right? But if she could hear our advice, maybe she'd change her mind. All right, Act 4, Scene 4.
Act 4, Scene 4 of Romeo and Juliet takes place the next morning as the Capulet house buzzes with wedding preparations. Lord Capulet instructs the nurse to go awake Juliet. Lord Capulet opens the very brief fourth scene as the apparent lord of his bustling house. The scene is full of hope for the upcoming marriage. Capulet spares no expense for good baked meats. He displays youthful vigor, flirting with his wife, even after being up all night. This scene provides dramatic irony. The audience knows that the wedding plans are pointless and that the nurse will not find Juliet prepared to get married. But Lord Capulet continues wedding preparations in ignorance.
All right. So we've got our good example there of dramatic irony. And now let's see what happens after that.
Act 4, Scene 5 of Romeo and Juliet takes place in Juliet's bedroom, where the nurse is amazed that Juliet is not awake and making preparations. When the nurse realizes that Juliet is not just asleep, she calls out that Juliet is dead. Her parents rush in and quickly fall into despair. The friar, Paris, and musicians enter the Capulet house for the wedding, and Lord Capulet announces that Juliet is dead. Everyone cries out in despair. Lady Capulet mourns for her only child and wants to die with her. Lord Capulet mourns over the loss of an heir, Paris. Paris mourns the wife he never had. The nurse expresses utter misery. The friar intervenes to remind them that Juliet is now in heaven. The friar encourages them to embrace the death and prepare for the funeral. The scene ends with a quarrel between Peter and the musicians hired to play at Juliet's wedding and now, seemingly, a funeral. When the nurse alerts the household to Juliet's apparent death, each person's reaction reveals his or her character and their relationship with Juliet. Lady Capulet reveals herself to be a true mother. Lord Capulet reveals himself to be a patriarchal figure. The friar, who alone knows that Juliet still lives, dismisses their cries because she's in heaven. This is another case of dramatic irony. Like Friar Lawrence, the audience also knows that at this point in the play, weeping is unnecessary since Juliet is not really dead. The argument between Peter and the musicians provides comic relief. Although having such a comic scene following the heart-wrenching mourning seems inappropriate to modern sensibilities, Shakespeare often used it to give the audience relief after an emotionally intense scene.
All right, so now everyone thinks that she's dead. So in order to inform the essay that we're going to write, I'm going to go over the assignment with you. And before you write, I want for you to read this brief article on teen suicide. It's called What's Killing Teens. And it's largely an infographic, so it gives you some information that I want for you just to read through and process, okay? And then after you get done with that, we are going to take a look at this assessment paper. So we're going to have the rest of class this period, and then you'll have all of class period on Monday to complete this. You cannot turn this assignment in late because of the way grades are. So the only way I can grade it is if you turn it in at the end of class on Monday, okay? So if you think that it's going to take you longer, then you might want to spend some time working on this weekend, or come during RTI on Monday to work on it some. So using the article that you read about teen suicide, I want for you to create an argument in favor or in disagreement with the plan that Friar Lawrence has set up for Romeo and Juliet. It's going to be 3 paragraphs. You're going to have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. In your introduction, you're going to include your position. For example, I agree with Friar Lawrence's plan for Romeo and Juliet, and then you're going to tell me why. Okay, so I agree with Friar Lawrence's plan for Juliet to drink the potion that will make her seem dead because I think true love is the best thing in the world. Okay, that might be your argument. Or I disagree with Friar Lawrence's plan because he should advise her to go and tell her parents the truth. Okay, so you can have any of those things. Kind of think about what you built your advice around. In your body paragraph, you need to include 3 facts from the play from any of the 4 acts that we've talked about, and 2 facts from the teen suicide article to make your case. And then in your conclusion, you need to reassert your claim or position and make a statement about how you have proven without a doubt that Friar Lawrence's plan is good or bad. So I'm saying this is Friar Lawrence's plan because A, it is, but also he's the adult in the room, right? He is an adult that has advised Juliet to fake her death in order for her to get what she wants, right? Which is to be with Romeo. So we are going to put the responsibility for coming up with this plan on him, because can you imagine if you went to your pastor or your priest, or if you have any other kind of holy person in your life and they were like, hey, I've got a good idea. Let's deceive everybody and let's pretend like you're dead, right? It's kind of suspect, right? But it's okay if you say, I agree with it, and I just want you to tell me why. I want to make sure that your paper is double spaced and that you have a name and a title. So for example, make sure that you have your name, the English 2 in your class period, and then your position. This is the rubric that I'll be using to grade your paper on a scale of excellent, average, or failing. Introduction, it starts with a hook to grab the reader's attention. It clearly states your author's claim, clearly indicates the position that you, the author, has about Friar Lawrence's plan. In your body paragraph, it includes evidence to support the author's claim, 3 pieces of evidence from the play, and 2 pieces of evidence from the article on teen suicide, and that it's clearly supporting your claim. So you don't want to start out with like, I think that this plan is the best plan ever, and then you have really bad evidence that doesn't support that, right? And then in your conclusion, that you restate your claim, you make a statement about how you've proven without a doubt that your position is the right one. And then also just basic conventions. You spell checked, you made sure that things made sense, you use proper grammar, and that your paper is double spaced. So again, you'll have all of class period on Monday, since we're odd, to complete this essay. Let's use this time today to brainstorm. And I've provided some brainstorming area for you to use below. So you can say my position is, you can highlight one that you agree or you disagree. You can put into your own words why you agree or you disagree. What proof do you have? Let's get some proof from the play. Let's get some proof from the article. And then what's a possible hook that you could use to grab the reader's attention? Do we have any questions about this assignment? We're using evidence from both the article, and you're just going, whenever you cite evidence from the play, I do just want you to say, okay, in Act 1, Romeo meets Juliet and they fall in love instantly. So if you were like a pro true love, first sight, all that kind of you would say, that's so romantic that they met at the play and they fell in love instantly. I mean, they met at the dance and they fell in love instantly. And I think that that proves that they should be together no matter what. Okay. But if you disagreed with it, then you could say, hey, they meet and within like 3 hours, they decide that they're going to get married, which is very, very irresponsible. Okay. So you could kind of go either way. You don't have to say in Act 1, Scene 2, or anything like that. You can just summarize it to, in Act 1, this happens. In Act 2, this happens. If you're not sure even what act it happened, you can ask me and I'll help you identify what act that was in, okay? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Essay in a Word document, yes, ma'am. You're going to turn it into me through Teams, and there will be a place for you to turn it in on Monday. Other questions? So let's spend the last part of class kind of starting to brainstorm, get our ideas together so that you can use Monday to do your writing. Again, it's just 3 paragraphs. Okay, question? I want you to download it so you can do your brainstorming. But it won't let you. Okay. Do you see up here where it says edit document? Look up on my screen. Do you see that? Does it say that on yours? Okay, so if you did edit, then you can open in desktop back. It doesn't say that? Okay, let me come look at yours. Open in desktop, do that. And then it will save it to your OneDrive. And if you want, I don't mind if you double space and you type your essay in this document. That's fine with me. And then you share it with me. That's okay, whatever's easiest. Other questions? So we have this class period, we have Monday, and then you have to turn in Monday, right? So that it can be on this 9 weeks. Also, if you have late missing work, the last day for you to turn that into me is going to be on Monday. Okay. So make sure that if you owe me anything, that you get that done. And you can check and see if you owe me anything by checking it out on Skyward. Okay.
What did we miss on last class for the play?
We just finished up we finished watching Act 3. That's all. We didn't do anything else. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna let you guys work. Okay, Melvin, thank you so much for joining us today. Bye.